स्टडी IQ IAS, अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।
नमस्कार दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है करम योगी दिवाकर बोथरा एंड आई वेलकम यू ऑल इन द नेक्स्ट एपिसोड ऑफ आवर series Know Your Concept 5 minutes. The concept which I'm going to discuss today was also there in the news because of some other reasons, but at the same time this concept is so difficult to elaborate as there has been so many understandings and misunderstandings on this. The topic of today's discussion is fascism. What exactly is fascism? The core of fascism is difficult to arrest, although I'll try to give you a basic idea so that it develops certain clarity. Why it is difficult to develop the core understanding of fascism is because there are a school of thought which believes Mussolini's fascism and Hitler's Nazism are both forms of fascism. But on the other hand, there are school of thought which clearly differentiates between fascism and Nazism. Today we'll cover fascism, and in the upcoming lectures I'll also give you an understanding of Nazism so that you people are in a clear position to differentiate between both of these aspects. So without wasting any time, let's get into this. Fascism is a political ideology. Remember this. It's a pure political ideology. Unlike communism, which could also be an ideology or could be a political ideology, fascism is necessarily connected with a state. It's a political ideology whose core theme is the idea of an organically unified national community. That means nationalism and fascism, if not goes together necessarily, but in every fascism there would be present strong nationalism. And maybe because of this, we often see many people largely were against such nationalism as well, because they knew that nationalism can largely be manipulated, and this extreme form of manipulation of nationalism largely leads to the development of fascist ideologies or fascism. That means it is necessarily a political ideology which talks about a strong national community. Just a small information before getting into the depths of fascism is one that the August batch, the admissions are now open. For sociology batch, you can get into this. Use the code DIVLIFE so that you get a better discount. Or in fact, for that matter, koi bhi faculty code, if you use it, you'll get a discount. But when you enter into this batch, you would definitely feel that how sociology has been different. How you would have been just studying sociology, you were not able to identify with that sociology. And once you start identifying with the things, guys, believe me, it's just magic. Because sociology is a discipline which cannot be just studied by logic alone. It requires some form of magical interpretations. And magical here, not here jadoo tona. Magical is a different approach of studying it. Getting into this, again, coming back to the fascism, individual is in fact nothing. And individual identity must be engulfed in the community or social group. Please don't you dare connect Imildurkheim with fascism, because the people who are having sociology, they would definitely try to bring a equation here. No, it's a pure political ideology. It's not a social coherent ideology which the Durkheim talked about in his theory. Therefore, in fascism, individual is considered as completely engulfed in the collective group identities. You do not have your identity, your group has the identity with which you are identified. Idea of individual, what exactly they consist, what exactly they understand individual as. Man is a hero and motivated by duty, honor and self-sacrifice. Imagine what they are demanding. Prepared to dedicate his life to the glory of his nations. That means the fascist ideology often present man in a heroic form, and he's presented in such a manner that he's ready to sacrifice his life for the larger well-being. But unfortunately, those leaders and people who advocate these ideologies, they themselves never follow this. They only want the people to follow this so that they can be spearheaded behind a charismatic leader. You often see what I'm talking about here. It believes in unquestioning obedience to supreme leader. very well practiced many times in Indian society. Not the fascism, but in fact, this statement we are talking about. Okay, all fascist ideologies would always necessarily demand that you accept and agree to a particular leader who is considered absolute supreme. And you do not debate on his wordings, you accept it blindly. Why? Because you are considered and intoxicated by these certain ideologies which manipulates you. These leaders themselves are not nationalists. They manipulate the behaviors in order to just fulfill their the games of politics, clearly reflected in the Mussolini's idea of fascism in Italy. 1789 is dead. These people clearly are of the opinion that 1789 is dead. That is nothing but the French Revolution. Fascism is an anti in character. Fascism always understood from the basis of what it opposes. That is, it is defined largely by what it opposes. It is anti-rational, it is anti-liberal, it is anti-capitalist, it is anti-communist too. For fascist, freedom means complete submission. Submission to who? The grand one leader. Fascism has been a complex historical phenomena and is difficult to define core and the basic principles of it, which I made clear. Okay, there are people who consider both Mussolini's and Hitler's idea as fascist, but there are people who separate them as two different ideological set of values. Everything, in short, the fascism has been beautifully expressed by Giovanni Gentile, where everything for the state, nothing against the state, nothing outside the state. That means state becomes the only identity with which every individual would identify. Neo-fascism has been in trend. There are new ideologies, new interpretations made of this fascism. Because Mussolini is dead, acceptability of these ideologies is today is even a punishable offense maybe. Also known as democratic fascism. Matlab, just imagine kitni interpretations of ideologies that fascism also now have a democratic form. What exactly it talks about? It rejects the principles of charismatic leader, no submission to a particular leader, because we are living in a democracy. And racialism. No racial supremacy is debated, just like Nazist advocated above Aryan supremacy. It is a form of fascism that is often linked to anti-immigration pacts and ethnic nationalism. So this democratic fascism is largely reflected in the principles of son of soils, where you often talk about ethno-nationalism, or what we often talk about reflected in the forms of immigrant pacts. So I hope this fascist ideology, at least the core principles, although difficult, but now you know what exactly the essence of fascism looks like. If this is the way you really want to take your conceptual clarity to a next level, this is the batch. Thank you.
स्टडी IQ IAS अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।